There is a paradox. It's haunting. It surfaces in the stories you share in our community every single day. It is the irony of the orchid. You have a massive capacity for deep feeling. You possess a rare sensitivity. But that gift? It is a double-edged sword. You are lighthouses that, by their very nature, pull pirates to the shore instead of guiding ships to the harbor. You know the feeling. The vertigo of being lied to until your own senses feel like strangers. The betrayal of seeing your private vulnerabilities twisted into jagged weapons during a fight. The sheer exhaustion of being pushed to a breaking point, only to be told that you are the problem. You are trapped by one agonizing question. How can they watch me suffer and not feel a thing? We use broad words for this. Toxic, difficult. But those words are too small for such a vast void. Science offers a classification that is much more precise and much more chilling. These individuals are the architects of a home where the mirrors are one-way glass, and every door leads back to the basement floor. Today, we are going to deconstruct the machinery of their minds. What is happening in there? And more importantly, what isn't? You know, I think this is where it starts to make sense. Or maybe it's where the nightmare finally gains a name. Let's look at the blueprint. When you deal with a predatory personality, you make a fatal mistake. You assume they operate on your frequency. You believe that if you find the right words, if you just describe your hurt clearly enough, they'll have an aha moment. They'll stop. They won't. The data suggests their internal wiring is built differently. Researchers have mapped out 4 distinct pillars. 4 walls that hold up this dark architecture. The first is narcissism. What makes them dangerous is their magnetism. They are vibrant. They are engaging. They are often the most persuasive people in the room. But that charm? It is a gold-plated safe that, once cracked, reveals only a drafty, hollow room. If you stop providing the validation they crave, if you dare to hold a mirror to their flaws, the charm evaporates. It's gone. It is replaced by a cold, predatory fury that feels wrong, deeply unsettling. Second is Machiavellianism. These are the silent puppet masters. A narcissist reacts to the moment. They need their ego fix right now. But a Machiavellian? They play a game that spans years. They are patient. They are calculated. To them, you aren't a human soul. You are a battery to be drained, a source to be discarded the second your voltage hits 0. If a lie moves them closer to the goal, they will look you in the eye and tell it. No sweat, no hesitation. To them, ethics are just rules for lesser people. Third is psychopathy. Total lack of impulse control. A complete absence of guilt. Most people have emotional guardrails that prevent them from causing harm. These people don't. They engage in behaviors that would paralyze you with anxiety. Why? Because their amygdala, the brain's alarm system, is silent. It's dead air. They live for the immediate thrill, regardless of the wreckage they leave in your life. And the fourth, the one scientists only recently categorized: everyday sadism. This is the key to the cruelty that seems to have no purpose. The subtle digs, the joy in seeing someone embarrassed. For the sadist, your distress is the prize. Seeing you break releases dopamine in their system. They hurt you because, quite literally, it feels good. Is this a choice? Or is it a blueprint? This is a bitter pill to swallow. Some of these traits cannot be healed by love. They are biological. Behavioral genetics has given us a window into this darkness. Psychopathy, for instance, is heavily rooted in biology. Estimates suggest about 70% of this trait is inherited. These people are born with a quiet amygdala. They didn't learn to be cold. They were born as a finished puzzle, but the guilt pieces were missing from the box. Machiavellianism is different. It's often a survival code written during a chaotic or neglectful childhood. They learned early, vulnerability is a death sentence. Control is the only safety. This mix of genetic code and environment creates a personality that is almost entirely resistant to outside influence. So, how does the trap actually work? You've asked yourself, how can they know exactly where my buttons are if they don't feel anything? How can they be a monster 1 hour and a soulmate the next? It feels like a toggle switch. According to neuroimaging, it is. It's a phenomenon called empathy dissociation. Empathy isn't one thing. It's 2 separate circuits. Cognitive empathy is the intellectual circuit. It's the ability to map out what someone else is thinking. It's how you read a person's intentions. Affective empathy is the heart circuit. The ability to actually mirror that pain in your own body. It's what makes your stomach drop when you see a child cry. Most manipulators have Olympic-level cognitive empathy. They are geniuses at reading your micro-expressions. They know your triggers better than your therapist. But they have a total blackout in affective empathy. They recognize your suffering, but they don't feel the sting. In fact, fMRI scans show that for those with psychopathic traits, the feeling part of empathy stays in a default off position. But here's the kicker. Empathy is just a costume they put on to gain entry to your life, only to burn it once they have the keys to the vault. During the love bombing stage, they flip the switch. They mirror your light. They simulate a deep soul connection. But it's a simulation. Once you are locked in, they flip the switch back to off. They didn't use that connection to bond with you. They used it to map your weaknesses. They weren't looking for a partner. They were scouting for a victim. This leads to a brutal truth. They didn't pick you by accident. These personalities are like sonar. They scan for specific signatures. Because you are a person of high empathy and high trust, you glow on their radar. They seek out reflector personalities, people who will always search for the good in others, even when it isn't there. People who will project their own moral compass onto someone who has none. If you are an echoist, someone who fears taking up space, you are the perfect companion for their expansion. They test the waters early. They step over a small boundary just to see if you'll defend it. If you make excuses for them, if you apologize for their bad behavior, you've passed the test. The trap is set. They use a psychological engine called intermittent reinforcement. It's the same mechanism that makes gambling addictive. If they were terrible every single day, you'd walk away. So, they aren't. They give you just enough water to keep you from dying of thirst, but never enough to let you grow. A week of coldness. Then, one night of that intoxicating, perfect version of them. Your brain becomes a dopamine addict. You live in a state of high alert. You are constantly hitting the lever, hoping for the good version to return. This isn't a relationship. It's a biological hostage situation called a trauma bond. Once you're tethered, the erasure begins. Gaslighting is the primary weapon. It isn't just lying. It is perspecticide, the systematic murder of your reality. They deny things you saw with your own eyes. They rewrite the history of your past. They tell you your memory is failing, that you're too much, that you're imagining the malice. Over time, your brain actually changes. Chronic stress shrinks the hippocampus, the part of the brain that handles memory and facts. Meanwhile, it swells the amygdala. It keeps you in a state of constant, vibrating terror. You end up in a fog, physically unable to think clearly enough to find the exit. After hearing this, you might feel a strange sense of jealousy. You might think, I wish I could be that detached. I wish I could just turn my heart off and win. It's easy to feel that way. Our culture rewards these traits. We see the fearless CEO, the social climber who never feels awkward. It looks like a biological cheat code. But you have to see the invoice for that armor. If life is just a game of who dies with the most toys, then sure, they're winning. But if life is a human journey, they are profoundly disabled. Because of their brain chemistry, they are trapped on a treadmill of hunger. They have to hunt for bigger and bigger hits of power, or risk, or cruelty, just to feel a spark of life. They are running a race with no finish line, and they are biologically locked out of the other side of existence. They can never know the quiet, warm glow of oxytocin. The deep peace of a safe embrace. A moment of true trust. They are chemically barred from tranquility. Every friendship is a contract. Every love is a heist. They never feel truly seen because they can never risk being vulnerable. They memorize the lyrics, but they can never hear the melody. So, please, do not envy the machine. It's fast, but it's hollow. What is the point of all this data? I'm painting this picture in high contrast for a reason. You have been trying to fix a hardware problem with software. You've been bringing communication and empathy to a fight where the opponent only recognizes control. You are projecting your beautiful, feeling heart onto someone who literally does not have the equipment to process it. Accepting this is like realizing the monster under the bed was just a shadow. The moment you turn on the light, the fear loses its grip. When you look at them now, change your perspective. Stop looking at them with heat. No more anger. No more longing. Anger is just another thread connecting you to them. Instead, look at them with clinical observation. When they explode, see it as a collapse of the ego. When they deceive, recognize the move of a puppet master. When they enjoy your tears, See the spike of a chemical reward. Understand that their actions are not a reflection of your value. It is simply the output of a machine designed to function this way. You weren't targeted because you were broken. Know what? I've realized that warmth they tried to steal, it's yours. It was always yours. You were a high-value target. You have the warmth they can only mimic. And that warmth, it belongs to you.